next was the like button, which has been a very interesting sort of tool. It's a very, very simple tool. You can put it on just about anything. And today what you see is you have essentially billions of likes or comments per day. So on a variety of things, whether that's on Facebook or on third-party sites. And now we're at a stage where we've actually just launched this thing called Timeline. So let me just check. How many of you guys have the new Timeline? Okay, maybe about 40%. So it's actually now publicly available. Initially, we made it available to developers. In December, we made it available to just about everybody else. So hopefully, most of you guys will be getting it very soon. And the interesting thing here is, so Timeline is really a user-focused sort of tool or world. With Timeline apps, we're allowing developers to help a user build out their interest graph, things that are interesting to them. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So this is my timeline. We spent the last year, really, thinking about Timeline. So it is, it's something that we spend a lot of time sort of aesthetically, just spending a lot of time thinking about how do we make it beautiful? How do you sort of create an experience that allows you to not just have the first 5 minutes of a conversation? So if you think about the old profile, it was, who am I? You know, am I single or am I married? And what school did I go to? And that's it, right? It's first, maybe 3 minutes of a conversation. Timeline really allows you to kind of get to the next hour, 2 hours of a conversation. You can go all the way back to when I was born. You'll see that the date is not on there for obvious reasons. But the idea is you could really go back and start to highlight the things that matter to you. So you can tell stories from a sort of, you can add pictures about your graduation or your first child or your wedding or, you know, really anything that matters to you. And so it becomes less about all the little things that you do and more the really important big things. So that's all nice. And I can put pictures, and I can put check-ins, and I can do things like that. But really, what you want is to start to add real activity to that timeline. And this is where you guys come in, right? This is where startups come in. This is where investors who are working with startups come in, which is, how do you build experiences that allow a user to express who they are? So I listen to a lot of music, right? It's a big part of who I am. And so by building a timeline app, I'm able to express to my friends what I like, what I'm listening to. Not just because I've actively liked it, but because I'm on Spotify or I'm on Deezer and I'm listening to the music right then and there. And that's what I'm able to broadcast to my friends. So that's nice. We've seen, you know, in the month of September, which is when we launched, we saw a lot of news apps go live with this. We saw a lot of video apps go live with this. So Izle Sene, have you guys used the Timeline app on Izle Sene? Nope, that will change, hopefully, very soon. So music, video, and news. Those were the really big things that, that we saw initially. In January, we opened it up so that you can do anything you want, not just read, watch, and listen. You could really do anything at all. So Pinterest, which is something that's really been taking off, really globally, but I think probably at this point, especially in the US, you can now pin something. So you're on Pinterest or you're on a site and you can use their plugin, their little social plugin. And essentially what happens is you authorize the application once, and every time you pin something, that gets published back to your timeline. And it gets published in a few different places. I'll show you how that actually works. And the idea here is that you want to just sort of tell people who you are, right? You want to express what matters to you. So if you're a runner, you're going to use the Nike application and say, I just ran, 25 miles, in San Francisco or in Antalya. If you are a knitter, you'll talk about knitting. There's a food application. So you can say, I'm craving this dish, or I just ate this dish. It's also about discovery. So initially, I was a little skeptical about this. So when I looked at sort of all the stuff that my friends were reading, I said, do I really want to read everything that, is that really going to be a big deal? And the reality is I'm discovering stuff that I never would have read otherwise. So not necessarily in the ticker, which is the real-time activity, but when it starts to get aggregated into interesting stories. So now I see that 10 of my friends have just read an article about the Facebook IPO. I'm going to go check it out. So the idea is you can start to discover new things, although that one's probably wasn't new for me, but you could see sort of what are the things that are picking up with your friends.